Okay, good morning. Welcome. It's Carmiece Graves, and welcome to my channel, streaming here on Facebook, YouTube. And I had put out the notice that I'm restarting my show. Let me introduce myself for those of you who don't know me, who have not met me. But my name is Attorney Carmiece Graves, and I practice family law and estate planning in the Maryland and Washington, D.C. area. And during COVID, I had a podcast on the radio, and I'd stopped doing it. And I thought it would be great to come back because I'm a YouTuber, I'm an Instagrammer, I'm a social media person. So I figured I'd jump into the conversation and add 2 cents. So today, without further ado, it's not going to be long videos. I'm going to really try and be consistent. Come in here Thursday, drop some gems, things that people ask me on a regular basis. You guys are welcome to join the conversation. You're welcome to post your questions. Hopefully I can figure out on this platform how to read any comments and questions, but I want the community to have an opportunity to ask me estate planning and family law questions live. You can join. Once I figure out all these logistics, I'm still getting, getting the rust off in terms of how to get back in the game. It's been a minute. But just if you're wondering about who I am, I've been practicing 12 years in family law, and I've taken a particular interest. Today, we're going to talk about fathers' rights. We're going to talk about key provisions in custody agreements that I see after the fact that I think were poorly drafted, or some that I think that were well drafted, especially coming out of my shop, and some key provisions that I would like to make sure that you guys know that it's important to have. We're going to go over that. Just some things in the news. Obviously, in the community, there's a lot going on in the political landscape. I'm just going to give my 2 cents on that. I'm not going to spend too long on that. There's enough people covering that with their expertise and background, but I will chime in. So let's jump right in. So again, feel free to submit questions. Even if you don't do it on air, you can text me, email me questions, info@ctgraveslaw. And today we're going to go over a couple of questions that one or two that I've received. So here's the thing. So let me just give you a little background. Now, my shop, we focus on estate planning and succession building and, really building that generational wealth. Along the way, though, I've taken on helping people through difficult transitions when it relates to separation and divorce. Really, I'm passionate about making sure that children are able to maintain their relationships with both parents through this difficult transition, okay? And it's difficult. And I found that, a lot of my male clients, fathers, felt that the judicial system had a bias against dads. And I really worked to balance that because it's also important that children are able to maintain their relationships with their fathers when their fathers want to relate to them, especially because our fathers, especially in the African-American community, get such a bad rap from being absentee fathers. It was really appalling when I learned that sometimes dads want to be involved. They want to have a presence in their children's lives, but because of how things unfolded in the relationship one way or the other, that has now become very difficult. So people have asked me, what do you really tell dads, realistically about their chances of obtaining custody? And we're going to go through that. If this is something that you have wondered about or you're concerned about because you're going through your own, transition, whether it's separation, divorce, things of that nature, I'm going to give you some tips. Here's one we're going to go over today. And then I also want to talk about the Dad Gang, awesome organization that I have recently become familiar with. And hopefully, be partnering with in the future to do some things. But the Dad Gang is an awesome organization that you can find them on Instagram. I've also included, I believe, a link, and they're going to have some activities upcoming in August to support fathers. So that's what our focus is on today. So let's get into it. Now, what I care about in custody agreements. So, one of the things that I can say generally, if you're able to maintain some sort of civil relationship, think about carefully who we are co-parenting with. That emotional maturity is really going to play a factor in your ability to even come up with a custody agreement. I will tell you from the beginning, the court really prefers that the two parents really resolve all issues regarding the minor children. Here is a tip. Things that can seem subtle that later can become an issue. Here's one of the ones that I want you guys to focus on. And it relates to when one party wants to relocate. Okay, that's a key one there. I want you to think about that. Relocation provisions in custody agreements seem like not a big deal. Whether they're going to be relocating, out of state, that's one thing. But also, I think one that may be missed sometimes, if they relocate out of a school district, and it can trigger children going to different school districts, or there's a mile radius between how far the parties live apart. Especially, this is really important for my dads. If you're trying to maintain custody, one of the things is whether it's in the best interest of the child, and that comes down to whether it's feasible. Are you able to maintain this relationship? Are you able to reasonably be able to maintain some sort of stability in this child's life between these two households? And one of the big things that really changes that for the worse a lot of times is how far apart the parties live. So you're going to want something in your agreement that has some protections as to whether someone can pick up, how much notice you get, and the notice is used to make sure that you have enough time to go to court. So if someone says in the agreement, I want 90 days before you relocate out of the state, right? That's enough time to go to court to say, hey, there's a material change. This person's trying to leave. I need to have the court intervene and figure out what we're going to do if we can't work it out ourselves. So the notice provisions in these agreements give you enough time to take legal action, and you're not kind of flat-footed whereby someone has moved, right? So say it's not that, say we're in Maryland, right? We're in Maryland in this state where they are living in one county, and now they've moved an hour and a half away, but they're still in the state. So it's not going to trigger the provision where you have to relocate, but it could trigger the provision, which I think should be in these agreements, on how close you guys live together if you're trying to maintain joint physical custody, okay? If you're trying to maintain joint physical custody. Another thing, and I'm looking at this from, a father's perspective, because a lot of times my dads are coming into these divorces and separations not feeling empowered. And I want you to feel empowered. I think we're all beyond the point where there's a question as to whether fathers need to be involved, and whether fathers being involved is critical to the healthy development of a child. Absolutely, absolutely. But one of the things they will not do is inconvenience the child. So change your lens when looking at custody agreements. We're looking at making sure that the agreement really speaks to how far people can relocate without notice. I would tighten that up and make sure that you keep tabs on that and take action immediately. As soon as you get an inkling that someone needs to change because of a job, maybe a relationship, maybe they want it, you need to, reach out, get a consultation, and start planning as to whether you're going to take legal action and the best timing for that. Another thing is, if you drafted an agreement, like say you guys are separated and you're like, look, I'm good. I don't want to spend a lot of money on any attorney's fees and things of that nature. One of the things is I don't want you to overly compensate for trying to be amicable with having an agreement that makes sense, that's designed to deal with conflict. Again, your custody agreement deals with conflict. It's for when everybody is not kumbayaing, where there's a lack of amicability. When that's the case, then we need this agreement to work, okay? Oh gosh, okay, look. I think I'm learning how to do the Instagram portion of this. So I think the IG stream will start a little later. So IG side, welcome to the show, Attorney Carmiece Graves. Let me catch you up real quick. We are talking about key provisions for fathers, and just not fathers, but parents, to have in custody agreements. Okay. All right, now. So now we got that out of the way. There's a couple of things that I have come across online that I thought were quite interesting. Now that I'm trying to find some content of interest. So you guys have heard recently about the Shannon Doherty. I think that's how I say her name, Shannon Doherty. She was the Charmed woman who just passed. She was on that show Charmed. She recently passed away. But the interesting thing about this, she was 53, right? And the only thing that was, really interesting about this case is that she was battling breast cancer. She's going through a divorce, and she's on her deathbed fighting through a divorce. That's so sad, right? And then I dig a little deeper, right? And because I'm wondering, how did she settle this case a couple days before she passed away? Like the judge hadn't even signed off on the divorce decree and she passed away. So I was like, that's really close in time. And it made me think about that line between what you inherit when you when someone passes away, when your spouse passes away, versus when you are separated and divorced. And one is an inheritance, and it doesn't matter if you're separated or not. But that couple of hours made a difference. But the crazy thing about it is that I found in the case is that the husband knew that she was on her last leg and held out on settling the case because he was waiting for her to pass away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was, I mean, a lot of things can shock me, and that was one of them. And so I would say with that, I mean, my goodness, have a prenuptial agreement in place as opposed to someone hawking over your deathbed waiting for you to check out. I mean, with the prenuptial agreement, you can deal with, spousal support. And obviously that was what the last issue was. She eventually ended up settling. I mean, I just can't even imagine the mind space to have to think about property disputes in a divorce, and I'm battling cancer on my last days. Guys, I mean, at that point, I don't know, but you have to think about her inheritance. You would think, why would she even fight about it? I think she would be probably interested in making sure that she has a legacy to pass on to her family, what stays with her. Because if she didn't settle the agreement and she passed away as his spouse, he inherits everything. So to her, it really mattered for her to hold on to that last moment, because if she passed away as his spouse, he just inherits whatever he inherits that was hers. And that would probably be 50% of her assets. And it seems like obviously they were fighting for a bit more than that. So interesting there, just how the lines, can really blur between divorce and dealing with estate planning. And prenuptial agreements are the agreements that kind of bridge that gap. And I know it's just very personal as to whether people even want to consider them. But geez, instead of fighting, about getting divorced, at least let the terms be clear and everybody choose to continue in the relationship and not drag it out over assets and property. Because if you don't want to get a divorce, people will drag you into litigation, spend up your money, waste up your emotional resources because they don't want to get a divorce. If you have the terms laid out and everybody knows what the exit strategy is, I think it cuts down on a bit of the shenanigans and really make it be this voluntary commitment that people recommit to day in and day out, which is the reality, because divorce is a possibility, right? Okay, so talking about that, what I also came across, interestingly enough, is, which I don't really think it's a big thing at all, but this political landscape, there's always talking points to rally up bases, right? And on the Republican side, there's been a lot of, attack on rights, civil rights, dealing with reproductive rights, just dealing with what people can do and should not do according to certain philosophies. So one that shocked me was that now there's conversation about attacking no-fault divorce. And I'm like, are we serious? I couldn't even imagine why. I mean, I can't imagine why, but putting forth legislation to possibly ban no-fault divorce just seems like anyone that would even spend time on that really is showing that they don't have much of a platform. But this comes from Oklahoma lawmaker Dusty Deves proposed a bill to eliminate no-fault divorce and suggested public shaming of spouses who commit marital fault and then divorce. Restricting no-fault divorce is also part of the Texas and Nebraska Republican Party platforms and was recently debated by Louisiana lawmakers. So I think the concept here is that getting out of marriage with the no-fault divorce provisions makes it too easy. Women are getting marital property, getting alimony, and there's nothing really to stop them from just picking up and saying, you know what, I'm out of here. So what do they want to do is roll back no-fault divorce. And if anyone does not know what no-fault divorce is, I think it's a pretty common term, but it's pretty much, designed at, really coming out of some of these religious-based rules where you had to prove to the court that you are entitled to divorce. Like you had to go and make this case that this person did something bad. It drove up the cost of litigation. It wasn't very productive. Everybody has something. And people just said, why are we judging whether this person wants to stay in their marriage, which is really none of our business? The court was like, if you want to get a divorce, get a divorce. I'm not going to fight you and make you prove to me that you are unhappy enough that you should be able to let go, be able to, get divorced. So I really respect that position. I think I even like the steps that we've taken here in Maryland, that you can also file for divorce while people are living together. That was a big financial trap whereby people couldn't afford to maintain the mortgage at home and pay for apartment someplace else. They're on the mortgage deed. They don't want their credit to be trashed. So they're stuck in the house, so they can't be separated for the 6 months. How does one get divorced? And that had been a way that people could keep you in a marriage when they don't want to leave and you have to stay. And now in Maryland, you can be under the same roof, like in many states, and still file. So this rolling back, no fault divorce, it's in my understanding, this is mandated, by the state. So each state is the one who has, the governor and the legislature locally. And I don't know if they're going to be doing a grassroots movement around amongst the red states to challenge no fault divorce. Could be. I think that could happen. I mean, I have been shocked before, so I can't say I could never see it. Roe versus Wade being reversed definitely was a shock to me. So anything can happen, right? So take a look at that. Watch out for it. I'll keep you informed about it, because if we go back to that, I don't really see the states doing that. I just don't think so. It's very beneficial. And of course, we really need to let people do what they need to do. Now, let's talk about it. I mean, I was going to get to it. What's Carmiece secret now? I'm not, the political landscape has exploded within the last 7 days. And the only thing I would say that there is, there's a lot of momentum, and I, really am praying for a very peaceful political season. It's getting divisive. It's getting ugly already. You hear Kamala Harris, my, soror. I'm a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, went to speak to the Zetas. And, comes back to, Vice President Kamala was talking to a colored sorority. Catch it, my, D9 sisters of Zeta Phi Beta catching strays unnecessarily, and, turning up the rhetoric, the racial rhetoric. I would say, please, along this journey, let's not let anything be divisive, nor disturbing. I think that is definitely going to be an approach. And here's one. The only thing that I find interesting, especially when we went through this with Barack Obama, is watching the campaign whereby we're going to start being encouraged to not vote at all, where someone's going to say we should not vote. Neither candidate is worthy. Stay home and not vote. Just take a look at who those people are. Look at, who they are. They're usually some trusted figures in the community. And I'm always interested to see when they pop up and when they start running this rhetoric that no one, that our vote doesn't matter, and that boycotting the election would be the best, position to take. And I would say at vote red, vote blue, vote, you understand? But a no vote is not a vote, right? It's either one or the other. So this is a real time. I mean, I'm praying for the best outcome that will bring more unity, more peace, more safety to us here in this country. I don't know what that looks like. I am definitely supporting Kamala on her, epic run to the White House. I'm so proud of her. I'm loving Black men standing up, for Kamala. They tried to sow that little divisiveness, tried to go back to, her record as a prosecutor and black men. And I'm so glad that black men was like, listen, we're not really about that. We're raising money. They tried to block our money. You know what I mean? I was wondering, she up there as, the ads are for money. And I'm like, where's the money from Joe Biden? I'm just wondering. And now found out that they blocked the transfer of the money from Joe Biden to Kamala. And Kamala's like, look, I need help raising hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm really proud that that our black men really, all the coalitions, all the multitude of them, not just Black women. I've been invited to so many, Alpha Kappa Alpha, Howard University, so many PACs and coalitions supporting this movement, because we know that there are a lot of rights on the line. I am wondering, just for us to stay grounded, because it's a long road, and a lot of people feel very vested in trying to, and what I'm seeing on the other side is this idea that America's changing way too much, way too quickly, and we need to revert and stop some of this change. And people feeling really vested in that. So I'm just hoping for a democratic process, no matter anybody's political views. And that's all I have on that. But hopefully today you found some tips about your custody agreements. Oh, before I go, I wanted to talk about on August 4th, there will be the March of Dads here in DC. I love this organization. I mentioned it earlier. The Dad Gang, I love it. Founded and organized by Sean Williams, had opportunity to meet and talk with him personally. And I'm so proud of this organization designed to really encourage fathers, Black fathers, changing the negative imagery of Black fathers to one of positivity. So in Washington, D.C., on August 4th, that's a Sunday, they're going to be out. Look up the information. It's in the description below. If you're a dad, come on out, represent. They'll be just showing, the depth and strength of Black fathers with numbers. And I think that's really important. I'm really proud of this movement. So I will be out there championing my fathers and supporting and inviting all of you, any of you interested, to find out more information about it. So thanks so much. I'm going to keep these videos short because I'm going to try and be consistent with them. If you have show topics, you have questions, info@ctgraveslaw.com. But otherwise than that, you guys take care of yourselves, and I will tune in with you again soon. Thanks for joining me, and like and subscribe, share. Thanks. Bye.